Now, Democratic Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado. He was the superintendent of Denver's public schools. Republican Senator Lamar Alexander of Tennessee. He is the former education secretary and former president of the University of Tennessee. Randy Weingarten is president of the American Federation of Teachers. And CNN education contributor Steve Perry is the founder and principal of Capital Prep Magnet School in Hartford, Connecticut. Thank you all for being here. Let me throw out to you just the overarching question. I think that I personally was sort of appalled when I saw how the U.S. stacked up against other education systems around the world. Of 38 countries, we're about 14th, very middling. What are other countries doing that we're not doing? Just jump ball.
So we actually had an international summit sponsored by the Secretary of Education just this past month to think about just that with many of the countries that outcompete us at that summit. And what they're doing is they really focus on preparing teachers like we prepare doctors in this country. They focus on the support in classrooms. They look at teachers, as the president has often said, as nation builders and with a lot of stature. We do things where, you know, we think a charter school here will work. Let's focus on testing one day. Let's focus on charter schools one day. We do the silver bullet theory. They do the theory of really growing knowledge.
I think we haven't recognized how the world has changed around us, both in terms of our delivery of education and the international delivery. So when the last president became president, George Bush, the second George Bush, we led the world in the production of college graduates. Today, 10 years later, we're 12th or 15th in the world. That's how fast it's changed. Right. And we're running a system right now that's producing from children in poverty only 9 college graduates out of 100 kids. So my view is that, you know, if we were given a blank sheet of paper to redesign the system, we wouldn't design the system we have today. One of the things we would do is figure out how to much better support people that want to teach in our country. And
let me, either one of you, it seems to me that we don't really have time here to, I mean, an entire generation is kind of being lost in an educational system that isn't just serving them badly, it's serving the nation badly.
Well, what we've done is we've designed schools to support the needs of adults, not the expectations that the country puts on its children. So we've created working conditions that are most conducive to the adults. We have 6.5-hour school days. We have an 8-month school year, all of which is counter to what we know children need. So one of the things that we're not doing that other countries are doing, and successful schools within this country, because we need not leave this country. We have very successful schools in this country. We haven't put children first.
I just want to give these figures to our audience. 34 countries. The U.S. ranked 14th in reading, 17th in science, 25th in math. They must be doing something. What is glaring here?
Well, let's think about what we're doing right. What we're doing right is, by any standard, we have almost all the best colleges and universities in the world, almost any standard. We should change our elementary and secondary system and make it more like our colleges, which is to say, create independent schools, we call them charter schools, and let the money follow the children to any school that fits the needs of those children. If they need to be there from 6 in the morning to 6 at night and on Saturday, they can select that school. That would help.
So let me just jump in here, Senator, because look, the Senator has had a tremendous amount of experience in terms of education. But what the other countries are doing right is that they're actually focusing on making sure that all kids have a decent shot at education. They're not doing the kind of silver bullet theories that we do in the United States.
And silver bullet theory is not giving, if you give a poor kid a ticket to a good school, that's not a silver bullet, that's an opportunity.
But what I'm saying is that when we look at the evidence, we have some incredibly great schools in the United States of America, and we have some really terrible schools. But if you look at the evidence of what works is having a strong coterie of teachers and principals working together collaboratively.
That's true.
Having real good curriculum where we're engaging kids in a real way, and trumping poverty, not making excuses for it. But these other countries in the world
why don't you let a poor kid have a ticket to a good school in Hartford, for example?
Why is it, if you believe what you say, then why is it that the teachers' unions are the first in line to stop children from leaving failed schools? Why is it that on a regular basis, your organization stands in support of the teachers in failed schools? If we put children first, then we don't care where they go to school. We just care that they go to a good school. We need your organization and others to stand with the education reformers and say children are first every day, and regardless of what we think the school is or how hard the teachers are working, if they're not producing, shut the school down, period.
Actually, we've done a lot of those shut the schools down for the last 20 years, and it hasn't worked. But on the ground right now, as we're talking in Washington, there are cuts in school budgets throughout the country, so kids are losing out in terms of music. They're losing out in terms of sports. They're losing out in terms of arts. They're losing the kind of activities that they need to engage them. The issue is...
Why don't you let them then go to a school that has music and art?
Or take it one step further. One of the reasons that we have that...
We need to have the finances in schools so that we can help all kids, not some kids.
Well, one of the reasons, but that's not the issue. One of the issues, as a principal who is...
Can I just finish one more point, which is that...
Got a few.
The point that you're raising about these kind of alternatives, there are studies now that say that 80% of these alternative schools, the charter schools, are not performing as well as
But that's not the only alternative. And as somebody who is on the front line and who does have the responsibility of maintaining a local budget, I think that one of the best things to happen to public education has been the budget crisis, because it's required us to look into ourselves and make decisions and realize that what's driving the cost of education is not football practice, it's not band practice, it's the personnel. And if you have people who get guaranteed increases, regardless of whether or not they do anything well, then that's what drives the cost.
I'll come back and start with you, Senator Benner. We're going to take a quick break here because I want to get down to some of the specifics, and because we're talking teacher pay here. You started out by talking about respect for teachers. I think I've heard that for 30 years in Washington, about how we have to have more respect for teachers. We have to elevate that career choice, and I want to talk a little bit about how you all want to go about doing that. We'll be right back after this break.
One line helps communities turn plans into reality. Helps shippers forge a path to prosperity. Helps workers get back to work. One line is an engine for the economy and the future. Norfolk Southern. One line, infinite possibilities.
A moment that starts off ordinary can become romantic just like that. A spark might come from a touch, a glance. It can come along anywhere, anytime. And when it does, men with erectile dysfunction can be more confident in their ability to be ready with Cialis for daily use. Cialis for daily use is a clinically proven low-dose tablet you take every day, so you can be ready anytime the moment's right, even if it's not every day.
Tell your doctor about your medical condition and all medications, and ask if you're healthy enough for sexual activity.
Don't take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain, as this may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure.
Do not drink alcohol in excess with Cialis. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate medical help for an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease or loss in hearing or vision, stop taking Cialis and call your doctor right away.
Ask your doctor if Cialis for daily use is right for you. For a 30-tablet free trial offer, go to Cialis.com.
By 2020, 50 billion network devices will roam the Earth. That's 7 devices per person. This will change how we work in ways we've never before imagined. What do you need to secure your people, their devices, and your business? A network that can evolve and grow to protect your human network. Never fear new frontiers. See why at Cisco.com. Cisco.
Can your credit card get you a free checked bag on every Delta flight? My card can.
Check your first bag for free with a Gold Delta Sky Miles credit card. Plus, earn up to 25,000 bonus miles. Call now to apply.
Can your card let your whole family save on baggage fees? My card can.
Free free checked bag for up to 9 people in your reservation is available to Gold Delta SkyMiles credit card members, saving a family of 4 up to $200 every Delta flight.
Can your card give you all this with no annual fee for the first year? My card can.
Fly with the Gold Delta SkyMiles credit card from American Express and check your first bag for free on every flight. Earn up to 25,000 bonus miles and no annual fee for the first year. Call 1-800-SkyMiles to apply.
Closed captioning brought to you by Meineke Car Care Center.
Engine light on. Come to Meineke now for a free code scan read, and you'll say, my money, my choice, my Meineke.
We are back and talking education reform with Senators Michael Bennet and Lamar Alexander, as well as Randy Weingarten and Steve Perry. Thank you all again. Let me start with you, Senator, because you did start out, I promise you, since Nation at Risk, and I remember doing a story about Nation at Risk, and said, you know, if a foreign country had done to our schools what we're doing to our schools, we'd have declared war, essentially. Here we are, we are still talking about, we have to find a way to make this an elevated career path. How do we go?
Well, I would argue, I said the other day on the Senate floor, that if the 100 senators in the Senate faced the same odds for their kids that kids in poverty face, I guarantee you we wouldn't be hanging around the Senate floor for very long. We'd be going home to figure out how to get our kids into the finest schools with faculties that are doing the work that we were talking about earlier. One of the things that I think we need to do is understand, and this is a positive thing about our country, we need to understand that finding people that are willing to do the same job for 30 years of their life is going to be really hard to do in the 21st century. We used to do that. We'd take the best British literature student in her class and we'd make her a teacher for 30 years because we wouldn't let her do anything else. That's no longer the case. I'm very interested as a result in that and thinking about how you think about compensation over a 7 or 9 year period of time, you know, in the classroom. Today we've got a system designed with a very low current wage, but we say if you hang around for 30, or if you're there for 30 years, we'll give you a pension for your retirement. Well, that incentive structure may have made sense at one time. It probably makes less sense today for new people that are coming into the profession.
Do you think that the system as it currently is protects bad teachers? Would you admit that?
I think that this system, I think that right now, whereas there's no epidemic of bad teachers, we got to do a lot better job at the preparation, the support, the nurturing, and then if somebody can't teach, the ushering them out.
But if, if we're 14th around the world and our
it is teachers. We can't just say that we live in a country where we have bad parents.
Let me have her just finish.
It's not. We don't have bad parents, and we don't have an epidemic of bad teachers. What these other countries do is that they do what our new teachers have just told us they want. They support and nurture. Teaching is not like speed dating. You can't just plop somebody in and say, do it, and then if they don't get the test scores that one wants, to usher them out of the profession. We have to nurture and prepare. Having said that, we have to evaluate and we have to focus on performance. Steve is right about that, and the AFT has been focusing on how we do evaluations in a way that doesn't shield incompetence, but also doesn't allow management to have an excuse not to manage.
The problem with many of us, principals in particular, like I am, is that we spend a year or two sword fighting with the organizations that protect them to make sure that we have dotted our I's and crossed our T's to get rid of this teacher. That teacher is responsible on the low end for 120 students. So if that teacher is the Algebra 1 teacher and she's not very good, then all the children who had her for Algebra 1 do not know what they need to know. We can't get that year back. So what we need, Steve, what we need you to do,
in Connecticut, we are doing the kind of innovation in terms of legislation that actually will help us identify people are doing a good job, and if they're not, to help them, and if they're still not, to usher them out of the profession.
Let me interrupt both of you at this point, only because, you know, if you're the mother of the child and the teacher that you want to help, you don't want your child with that teacher that needs help. You want it with a teacher that knows what they're doing.
But Candy, the issue becomes what's happening right now is that they're in the countries that compete us, in the schools that do well, it is a joint venture where what I'm suggesting here is that as a former classroom teacher, you cannot just say to somebody, okay, just do everything we're asking you to do with every single child without help. And what we're talking about, and what Singapore has done so well, is that they focus on evaluation and they focus on continuous improvement. That's the kind of stuff that they did, that Michael did in Denver. That's the kind of stuff that we need to do throughout the country, and we can do it.
Let me just real quickly, if I could tell you practically, when I have a teacher, for instance, who falls asleep in class and I try to fire this individual and it takes me 4 to 6 months to fire them and I have to counsel them and to provide them with the support, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about people not doing their job and us trying to get rid of them.
Let me call a time on this.
We're changing that, and you know that and I know that.
There's always a conflict with the unions versus, you know, what people want to do to get better teachers in.
Right.
So let's put on the table what's out there. Well, I know you all have been working up on Capitol Hill in terms of federal legislation, federal reforms. What's the single best reform you all think is doable at the federal level right now?
Well, if you hadn't said federal level, I could have answered.
I know.
Because
well,
the whole
$71 billion, you ought to be doing something with that.
Federal spending on elementary and secondary education is about 10% of the whole package.
Sure.
And the action is in the classroom and in the community. The holy grail of elementary and secondary education is teacher evaluation and principal evaluation. How do you evaluate a good teacher, and especially how do you relate student achievement to teacher performance? We're in the Model T phase of that. We don't know how to do it very well. Michael did it in Denver.
Not very well.
But we tried it in Tennessee. Lots of people are trying it, but we need to focus. The Gates Foundation is funding that. Tennessee's moving ahead on it, even today as it was 20 years ago. But that's what we need to do to attract and keep the best teachers in the classroom. I'm not talking about kicking people out. I think it's more important to keep good people in.
Exactly right.
And to find out who they are and reward them, pay them well, and you have to have differentiated pay and pay some more than others if you do that.
Senator Michael Bennet, Senator Lamar Alexander, Randy Weingarten, thank you, and so much Steve Perry as well. I have to have you back because I'm not sure we have solutions, but we do know what the problems plural are. Yes, we started the conversation anyway. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll be right back.